Welcome back to the third part of this lecture, which is on the role of the environmental pollution and challenges in future, and thereby contribute to the improvement in public health. This part will familiarize you with the human activities that is negatively has impact on the environment as well. It will also explore more how this problem can be mitigated and which prevention act to be taken for cleaner environments. First, we want to know what is environmental pollution. Energy or waste materials that are discharged to the environment where they can cause damage to human health or maybe the harmful effect on the environment of byproducts of human activity, principally industrial or agricultural process, are considered as pollution. Pollution is the introduction of contamination into the natural environment that cause instability, disorder, harm or discomfort to living organisms such as air pollution, noise pollution, solid waste pollution, water pollution, pesticide or radiation pollution. In this subject, you will learn about water, land and air pollution. Water pollution is the contamination of water bodies like lake or rivers, ocean or maybe groundwaters. Water pollution occurs when pollutants are discharged directly or indirectly into the water bodies without adequate treatment to remove harmful compounds. Sources of surface water pollution are generally grouped in two categories based on their origin, which is called point source or non-point sources. Point source pollution occurs when harmful substances are emitted directly into a body of water, for example, pipe discharge from a sewage treatment plant or a factory or a city storm drain. The source has to be monitored and treated before discharging to the environment in order to control the pollution based on the region standards. Non-point source pollution, which is familiar with NPS, affected a water body from sources such as polluted runoff from agricultural areas draining into a river or wind-borne debris blown out to the sea. The leaching out of the nitrogen compounds from agricultural land which has been fertilized is a typical example, or nutrient runoff in stormwater like a sheet flow over an agricultural field or forest are also cited as example of NPS pollution. What is the water impurities? Most of these impurities are harmless, although they may affect the appearance of the water. Natural occurring water may contain any of the following impurities, such as inorganic chemicals, primary metals, metallic salts, gases, suspended solids, and then perhaps these suspended solids are related to seals or non-living organic material, plant life, animal life, organic materials, and then surface runoff also will be contribute lots of turbidity or organic matters or pathogenic organism. And usually in surface water bodies, the dissolved mineral particles will remain unchanged while the organic impurities are degraded by chemical and microbial action. Biological agents, which are like pathogens, they cause some diseases. Based on these, we look at the infectious diseases caused by pathogenic bacteria and viruses, or perhaps parasites, for example, protozoa. The public health burden is determined by the severity of the illnesses associated with all these pathogens and their infectivity and the population exposed. Breakdown in water supply safety may lead to large-scale contamination and potentially to detectable diseases outbreak based on WHO in 2008. We look at sources of water pollution. Direct discharge from human activity, water-related infections from human, animals, and insects, or perhaps vectors into the water, and open dumping also pollute the surface of groundwater. Heavy metals from the natural or man-made sources, and sewage from the housing of the treatment plants, or perhaps discharge of industrial toxic waste from the factories itself, or agricultural waste from the plantation, animals, and livestock, or diffuse sources like acid from the air pollution through the industrial or vehicles based on the acid rains, or nitrate from the sewage discharges into the rivers. Pesticides and fertilizers from agriculture and from the pest or vector control activities will be distributed or contribute more consequences on environmental pollution. In this slide, I'm going to talk about health effect of water pollution. Water-related infectious health effect due to the exposure to the microorganism directly present or indirectly via vectors that are present in or related to the water. Water chemistry and diseases in drinking water, and absence and presence of a chemical, harmful organic and inorganic affected human via direct ingestion or via food chain from the contaminated aquatic organism. Radioactive materials and health effects also is another things. Presence of naturally occurring or manually discharged radioactive materials in the water affecting human directly or indirectly. I'm going to discuss about air pollution as another significant issues contributing to environmental pollution and climate change. Air pollution is the introduction of the particulates, biological molecules, or other harmful materials into the Earth's atmosphere, causing diseases, death to human, damage to other living organisms such as food, crops, or the natural built environment. Air pollution may come from anthropogenic or natural sources. The atmosphere is a complex natural gases system that is essential to support life on planet Earth. Or sometimes this air pollution will cause the ozone depletion. Indoor air pollution and urban air quality are listed as two of the world's worst toxic pollution problems in the world. In this slide, I'm going to talk about types of air pollutant, gases pollutant. These gases are derived from the material which have entered to the chemical reaction and combustion process. They include carbon-based compounds like hydrocarbon, oxides and acids, sulfur compounds such as dioxide, trioxides and sulfates, nitrogen compounds, and then also halogenated substances. Particles or droplet size may range from 0.01 to 100 micrometer in diameter. The smaller particles are referred to as aerosols and can remain suspended, scattering and behaving much like a gas. Below 10 micrometer particles are capable of penetrating into all sites in respiratory tracts. Industrial particulates are usually solids and are carbonaceous, metallic oxides, salts or acids, and their porosity is such that they will absorb other gases and liquids. Another matter is smoke. It is a combination of smoke and fog, and it's a popular term for a mixture of gases and particulate pollutants that accumulate over urban centers and persist for a prolonged period. Smoke is a brown or yellow haze, and it usually occurs during the phenomenon of the temperature inversion, when a high-level mass of hot air traps colder air beneath in and prevent mixing and dispersion, which is happening in a country with a colder weather or the higher level land. Another thing is haze, which consists of the sufficient smoke, dust, moisture, and vapor suspended in air to impair visibility. The term regional haze means that impairs visibility in all directions over a large area. For example, biomass burning or forest fires burning is another cause of the haze. In this slide, I'm going to talk about source of air pollution, naturally, which is occurring by SO2 from the volcanoes, methane gases from the agricultural areas, and polyaromatic hydrocarbons from forest fire, CO2 from the lakes, deforestation, and fossil fuel burning, and combustion, which is stationary sources, power production, industrial activities, burning of fossil fuel and biomasses. Mobile sources like road transport from the vehicles and any kind of machines and industrial activities. Another one is hydrocarbons, CFC, and ammonia, toxic gases, and particulate emission. And the other one is an atmosphere chemical reaction, which call it the secondary pollutant, water level ozone. When sunlight react with the hydrocarbon and nitrogen, then they will cause or they emitted from the vehicles and factory and waste treatment with the high temperature of burning of solid waste, which are producing quite amount high of the dioxin, furan and pH. The other one is a landfill, which are evolving more methane or organic gases to the environment. And domestic air pollution based on the open burning of the cooking or heating or dust particles. What is the consequences of the air pollution? They are caused of the greenhouse gases based on increasing amount of CO2 to the atmosphere, and the other one will be acid rain when emission of the sulfur dioxide or nitric oxide from the stationary sources are transported in a long distance by the wind. They will transfer to the secondary pollutants such as nitrogen oxide, nitric acid vapor, and they also can contain of the droplet of the sulfuric acid, sulfate, and nitrate salts. Another thing is the smoke, and the last is primary and secondary pollutants. A primary pollutant is the air pollutant emitted directly from the source. A secondary pollutant is a not directly emitted, such as form of other pollutant to the primary. For example, if you look at the nitrogen oxide or nitrogen dioxide, and they are going to be transferred to the acid and cause acid rain. Indoor air pollution is another consideration we have to look at it based on environmental pollution. The source could be combustion of the sources of the gas, stove, furnace, or any kind of heaters, and smoking of perhaps smoking. Asbestos containing insulation, defective pressure put, furniture, and all can be another source of the indoor air quality. Indoor air pollution, and one of the reasons is the inadequate ventilation and high temperature and humidity, which are perhaps are a reason to increase indoor air quality. For the recognizing how the outdoor air quality, we are looking at the air pollution index in Malaysia, which is indexes in a Department of Environment, and they have different range and characterization based on the slides. For the Malaysian air quality, which is reported as a API, we have 4 index pollutant components like carbon monoxide, ozone, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and particle matter, which is based on particle matter on the 10 micron. And the volume will be, the unit will be gram per cubical meter. In this slide, I'm going to talk about another challenges for environmental pollution, which is soil and land pollution. The harmful effect on the environment of byproducts of human activity, principally industrial and agricultural process on soil and land. The source of soil pollution normally is a natural land and soil erosion, natural disaster like storms, heavy rain and floods, forest fires and earthquake, which predisposits pollution. Another thing is the man-made issues by using the chemical fertilizer, growth regulating agent and other in the agricultural waste, and dumping on land a large amount of waste material from industrial or perhaps mining and leaching of the toxic substance into the soils, dumping of the commercial solid waste to the land, as well as radioactive, or perhaps some of the scheduled waste, including toxic and clinical waste from the hospital and clinic. What is the soil pollution and health effect? The biological disease agent, man-made soil like a cholera, typhoid, hepatitis, and parasites form will be some of the biological agents which have adverse impact in human health. And then we look at the chemicals such as heavy metals, radioactive waste, leachate from the landfill to the surface water, and they are producing health hazards. Airborne release to the land, soil, and may cause various diseases to human and animals. In this slide, I'm going to talk about the principle of soil pollution control and future challenges. We have to look at the source of the pollution, governmental intervention, education and awareness of the community, and training of the new knowledges to the stakeholders, or perhaps using NGO or engaging the community participation, and preventing of the creation of pollution by using of 3R, reduce, recycle and reuse, and process substitution industry, perhaps for different usage of the machinery and agricultural sectors, and prevention of the release sources in industry and natural or perhaps man-made, and treatment of release at the source at various points in the air and water land. We look at a principle of air and water pollution control and future challenges in this slide, which is air pollution by gravity setting chamber, cyclone collector, using the dynamic precipitator based on the industry they are using, or perhaps controlling by a usage of the scrubber, or in some industrial they are using the spray tower. While for the water pollution control, we can look at the wastewater treatment plant, membrane filtration, and biofilter based on different guidelines of the region. For the summary of this subject, principle of pollution and control will follow governmental involvement based on Environmental Quality Act of 1974 or Food Act in 1983, Atomic Energy Licensing of Act 1984, and also the Destruction of Disease Breeding Insect Act 1975, and Prevention and Control of the Infectious Diseases in Act 1988 to 1998. All right, and then we look at control, principle of pollution control with community participation, higher and research institution, involvement by finding new knowledge and technology and environmental pollution effect and control, disseminate latest information to the public, and using the NGOs involvement and creating awareness information dissemination, creating motivation, encourage community participation, and encounter checking a mechanism imparting pressure for the changes. This was a summary or introduction of the engineering to the public health. Of course, it was an introduction. Thank you so much to following us with all these three sections. I hope we can improve our environment by attending to the right decision and making better policy for our environment. Thank you so much.